Another week on JP means another round of banners for their whole grand servant system that we're going to be getting later on this year. If you're unaware what is going on, they are bringing back every single character in the game. Yes, every 4, 5, and 3-star character is going to be made available over the course of the next couple of months through these banners so that you can acquire your favorite character and turn them into a grand servant. As far as the requirements are concerned, we just know they need to be like max skills, they need to be bond 10, and I believe they just have to be grailed to level 100, not 120, which thank goodness, because I don't want to do that grind again. Now, what I'm hoping to do with these series of videos every single week is catalog these banners, so if you're playing on JP, you can kind of tell which banners are good to go on, because some of them have an alright 5-star, but then a really good or rare 4-star on them, or even some of the story lock 3-stars, like say Bedivere or Kucaster, who normally you're going to have at NP1, but if they're on a really decent banner, if you're on the NA side of things, you might want to add that into your clairvoyant summoning logs, or at least your preparation, so you know when you want to go try to go get that guy at NP5. So let's just start moving into this, because some of these characters over here also have some buffs that NA doesn't have, and I think Bradamante over here is a really good example of that. I believe Bradamante is expecting her buff during the anniversary, and this one is night and day for her. It takes her from a servant that could not even farm her own event. I would know because I summoned for her specifically to try to see if she could farm her own event, and she was woefully ill-equipped to do that. Let's just say it that way. But now she is one of the quick servants that can do the Black Grail looping, which is pretty notable because not every quick servant is going to be able to do that. So if you are among the elite quick servants that are able to do Black Grail looping, that is very useful. She's also just very generally good. She's kind of like Takasugi in that way, where she just has a very strong generalist kit. I believe she has like what, Earth Power mod now, but it's not like the 150, it's like the 50% on like her 3rd skill or something, the one that got buffed. So it's like she has a little bit of a niche, but she's still just going to be very strong overall because, again, if you could do Black Grail farming, you could really make up for any lack of niches or smaller power mods or lack of ramp up damage that you might not have. So she is definitely a very solid servant to go for. The only issue is that I believe she's on every single banner, like she's not even story locked. So if you really want Bradamante, you could just pick her up with the 5-star ticket that we know we're going to be getting for the 30 million download campaign over on the NA side of things. Or if you're playing JP and you really want Bradamante, you could just wait for the anniversary, because no shot they're not going to give us a free 5-star of at least the normal and story lock servants for the 10th anniversary. If they don't do that, then, you know, fraud game, you know, but surely Lysenko wouldn't let us down. Surely Tucson is going to deliver on that front. Now, as far as the 4-stars are concerned, these are all okay. Like, obviously, Ku is really good still, but everybody's going to have Ku. I mean, he's on every single banner. Qin Liangyu and then the Valkyries are fine. Qin Liangyu is, and I'm stressing this so that I don't get any comments about it, but she is very much baby Super Orion in that they pretty much do the same thing. Obviously, Super Orion does it a lot better, but she functions in the same way where you want to use her NP as a self buff, and then you want her to do like some big face card damage, do some crits, all that good stuff, which is a fine gameplay style, but obviously there are other characters that are doing that better, and most of the time you're just going to default to firing a bunch of NPs back to back to back and defeating the enemy that way. And the Valkyries are a little bit unfortunate because we do have Parvati in the game, and if you're looking for a looping servant, Parvati is just going to be the better option. If you want someone that can loop a little bit better, you're just going to use Parvati over the Valkyries, unless they just got a buff and, you know, they decided to help them out, and I'm unaware of it. As it stands right now, you know, not nearly as good. But they are a servant that I could see them getting a buff in the future, you know, maybe for anniversary, or if we ever get another, like, Norse-style event, which, I mean, we have a decent bit of Norse servants, so if they want to introduce, like, Loki or something, we do have in Prisma Ilia. Technically, Thor, or, well, actually, let me not get into that for people that haven't gotten that far in Prisma Ilia, because it's not in the anime, but technically, quote-unquote, we have Thor in Prisma Ilia, so if they ever wanted to do, like, a second Prilia event, we could get a buff for them, maybe with that kind of association. So, not the worst banner, but I'm doing a lot of dressing for it. There are definitely way better banners. Over here, we have Romulus. Now, Romulus is one of those servants that I think is fine, right? Once we got Draco, I think his niche got a little bit better. Just being able to turn people into Romans, I think, is very nice for somebody like Draco if you want to do kind of a meme, you know, multi-core setup. We do get the command code during Draco's event, but that is, again, only for one of her cards, so it's not like you're consistently finding that every single time. So Romulus does fit that kind of a nice niche. He's also really neat with Boudica because Boudica gives everybody the Roman power mod, so you can effectively give everybody a power mod and like a little bit of an arts buff with her as well. So like you can do some cutesy things with him. He's also just fine if you want to use him as a Buster Looper. Again, not doing the craziest damage you've ever seen, but it's also not the worst damage. Like, overall, just a solid servant. I mean, he's got survivability, has the battery at a decent enough capacity that you can use him in Buster farming setups, and he does have a little bit of a niche if you would like to pair him with some other servants that have, say, the Roman power mod. Like, that actually can be something you can use. Unfortunately, over here, the 4-star Ibaraki Doji isn't super great. Again, unless they drop a buff for her, I can't really see the use case you would have for her, unless you just think Banana Oni is like really funny and you're like, dude, Lamau, I'm throwing hot dogs at people, I'm gonna use the Glizzy Gobbler to take down everybody. But if that's not really your prerogative, then you really are just going for Romulus, in which case I think there are better characters to go for, especially in the Buster Lancer AoE option, especially because we just had a Reshkagal come back. Like, she was in the banners the week before this. And it also doesn't help that there's another Buster AoE Lancer that's also going to be on raid up. Moving over, we have Vritra. Now, this banner I think is kind of nice because on face value, you're walking away with one Arts AoE Lancer. So if that is a niche you need on your account, this isn't bad, right? Because Melt Lancer, while I do think kind of suffers from the Rider Mordred problem where she can loop really well, but at NP1, she's probably not actually going to take the enemies out. Her damage is definitely lacking at NP1. But if you're going to go hard on this banner and you're going to try to get a couple of copies, you could end up with, you know, a couple of copies of Lancer Melt, or you could end up with Vritra, who is a character that I've gone back and forth on. Initially, when she was pretty much the only Arts AoE Lancer I had on my JP account, I was pretty annoyed with her, particularly because of how her third skill works. She doesn't loop well enough that you, like, can't have the third skill giving her extra NP every single turn, but you also don't want to waste that one-time NP damage bonus, especially if she's at NP1, because you really need every extra bit of damage you have. But now, in kind of like modern game sense, I guess if you want to say, as we're doing like more and more multi-core setups, the fact that she can give everybody the NP damage buff and the divine power mod, that's actually kind of neat. Like, it does come up and she does do enough damage that by just using her on that one wave where you use the NP damage buff, she can clear a wave for you, and then now she's given somebody else the divine power mod, which is not nothing, and then also giving them a little bit of NP damage. And then she's also not terrible going into boss fights, like with the skill seal on the NP and then the guts. Like, she's not bad, right? She could definitely be better, right? We could say that, but I've definitely softened a lot on this servant. And I think it helps her out a lot that she has a very hyped 4-star on her banner in Lambda over here. Now, of course, this is not a story-locked character, so if you get the copies of Ku, you get the copies of Ku, but not the worst banner ever. I wouldn't say it's like, oh my goodness, this is a must-summon one, but if you have to summon on it, it definitely could be worse. But then I mean, this is just going to be the prize banner, no? Like, everybody's going to go for Melusine, because not only do you get what I would say is a solid single target serve, and again, I don't think she's competing with a lot of the other goated single target. I mean, we're getting 2 really insane single target art, or 3 single target art servants this year, actually. We have Berserker Castoria, Draco, and Yasugi Kenshin, and like, if you need a single target art servant, they just blow her out of the water. There are better single target art servants out there. But Melusine is not just a single target art servant. She's good enough as a single target art servant that she can fill that role, but really you're going to use her as a Buster AoE servant that can use, say it with me now, Black Grail, which makes her absolutely dummy nutty broken. Unlike, say, the art setups where pretty much every single arts AoE servant that is like halfway decent can make use of Black Grail, not every Buster servant can use Black Grail. It's a very exclusive club. It's getting larger by the day, but it's slowly expanding. And so the fact that Melusine is a part of said club does make her highly valuable and highly sought after, because Black Grail synergizes very well with Oberon, because look at that third skill, you're raising the value of NP damage by 100%, and Black Grail is giving you 60 to 80%, and then he's also giving you 20% NP damage as well on his charisma skill. Oh my goodness. It makes her real nasty. So one of the more valuable servants to probably go on here. I mean, if you're just wanting a Lancer in general, this is probably your best option, right? Because again, very functional single target servant that can just pivot into a very powerful AoE unit. And then even if you're using her as a single target, I've done this so many times where I'll be using her to like fight a boss or something, and then I'm like, oh man, we're just missing out on a little bit of damage. All right, let's click the third skill. Let's just turn into Albion over there, and let's just blow this guy up, right? Because she doesn't do, like, she's not going to do as much damage, right? Because the single target's going to do a little bit more. Because usually you're using her with like arts buffers if you're using her as a single target, but it's still enough damage to get the job done. So I would say far and away, probably the best Lancer to be going on if you did not get Ereshkigal on the previous banners. Canis is fine. Like, she's kind of been getting the shaft lately. I'm hoping that we'll see her maybe get some type of buff, because we've seen with somebody like Dobrania that they gave her a buff that was good enough to allow her to technically buster farm. It's a little janky, but you can get the job done. And so I'd like to see them do that for Canis, because, I mean, Canis is, like, pretty important in the story. She's been popping up since, like, Lost Spell 1. And then I would say, even though I love Dobrania more, I would say Canis is a more important character, right? Like, you know, Dobrania is just there to say, I can do everything and look really cute, whereas Canis is like, you know, strong antagonist, you know, fierce warrior lady. Come on, man. Hector is not limited anyway, so that's just kind of like a freebie that you can get on this one. I would not advise summoning on this banner. I am very sour on these guys. Every time I use them, they fail me. I'm going into challenge quest trying to make use of being real thick with the big 50% defense. Still not enough. They get clobbered. I'm trying to use them in farming. They're just not doing the damage. They're just not looping. I understand if you like Sakamoto and Oryu, that is perfectly fine. You can summon for them because you love them to pieces. But if you're going for a character that's going to do you right, bums. You can't rely on these people, dude. Can't rely on them. It says something that when I was in my Vritra hate arc, I would default to using her over these guys, right? Now, the one shining grace is that you could get Percival, but, like, why even risk it, dude? Just go on the Vritra and Lambda banner, right? Like, extra copies of Lambda are just gonna do you better. I mean, I love you, Percival, but I would rather have Vritra. I'd rather have 100 Vritras than one of this guy. You know, like, just keep them away from me. That's all I gotta say about that banner. Now, here's Britomart. I actually had to sack one of the recordings because I kept getting Britomart and Bradamante's names mixed up. But Britomart is a character that I actually have been really enjoying lately. I pulled her over here on JP for one of my Destiny Order summons because I just threw her up there because she was cute, and if I didn't get the supports, I'd rather get it like a cutesy servant or a cool servant, and I have been really enjoying her, right? She's been stuck at like 5, 6, 7 for the longest time because, you know, mats and QP are a thing, and she has actually been able to put in some really decent work, and that was even before I pulled Ruler Scotty. So I can confidently tell you that even if you're someone that doesn't have Ruler Scotty, but you got like OG Caster Scotty, this is a character that you can use pretty effectively as one of your quick AoE characters. And I know their niche is a little bit weird because they specialize in taking out riding enemies, which is a little bit strange for a Lancer to be doing, but again, it's a little bit of a quirky niche, you know, and her damage against those riding enemies ain't bad, right? It might seem anti-synergistic, but it's kind of like MHX, the original one, having a Saber power mod as an assassin. I always just took that as a bonus, right? Because it's like you do so much damage with the power mod anyway. I never really got the complaints about it. The rest of her kit was terrible, but the power mod was not the issue with that character. It was the rest of her kit. Whereas Britomart, I think, just has a very, very strong kit. So, like, if you just want to go for Britomart, you think she's cute, you like the big mecha armor design that she's got, then, you know, you can summon on this character in some pretty good faith. Obviously, there are better characters out there, but she's actually not that bad. You know, I'm going to go ahead and advocate her for a little bit and just say she's not that bad. Don Quixote is Don Quixote. He's a fun servant to use. Let's just say that and leave it at that. Jaguar Man is story locked, so if you're missing on a copies of her, there is another reason to go ahead and try to summon on this banner. Wouldn't it be crazy if they put Bisquion on one of these Lancer banners? They're like, yeah, she just left. All right, boom, back over here. Okay, so I think I need to advocate for Bhima for a little bit because this guy does not get talked about. And that might be one that, like, people just don't know who Bhima is. Just for a little bit of lore, that's like Arjuna's older brother on, like, their side of the faction. Bro is Giga Chad. He's, like, the strongest dude. He is OP as all hell. Like, he is super strong, and that is reflected in the amount of damage this guy can do. If nothing else, just understand that this guy is like single target Arash, right? It's like the same effect. It's the first character we got that has just the free damage power mod on their overcharge, right? You gotta know that that servant's really dummy OP. So if you want somebody that can just dumpster people, Bhima is going to be your guy. Bhima can be out here just doing disgusting amounts of damage, right? And again, it's not like we're lacking any characters for overcharge support. I mean, we're about to get Takasugi over on NA, and that guy's got overcharge support. Morgan's got it. Proto Merlin's got it. I mean, we got CEs like Demonic Bodhisattva. We got people like Himiko. We got just overcharge support coming out of every orifice over here. So, like, if you want to gas up this guy's damage, even at NP1, super easy to do. Super easy to do. And then the nice thing is that you do have Dobrania over here, the summer version, as your 4-star consolation prize, which Might just be a consolation prize for me because I like Dobrania a lot. You know, she's a Blue Eyes White Dragon reference. That's one of my favorite decks in Yu-Gi-Oh to play, and they made it a cute anime girl, so I think that's dope. And to show how goated this is, I'm gonna do a poll right now. They're gonna give me this guy Bhima because I gassed him up so much, or they're just gonna give me another copy of Dobrania, and that's how we'll close out this video. That is a CE, so never mind. Well, you know what? You'll get a lot luckier than I did. How about that? I was actually taking all the bad luck from all of you guys. But that is it for this week for the Lancer banners. If you guys enjoyed and found it informative or all that good stuff, a like on the video would be appreciated, and a subscribe to the channel would also be nice, as we are out here putting out these daily FGO content, whether it's at a consistent morning upload or afternoon. I work it around my schedule. I'll also be streaming later today in like 3 hours from when this video goes live, so I'd appreciate it if you guys can make it out there. Any FGO questions or things FGO or non-FGO related are always valid, so love to see you guys out there for that. That's going to be live over here on the YouTube and Twitch at the same time because I'm just goated like that and I can multi-stream. But with that being said, I'm going to catch you guys later or in a couple of hours, and have yourself a nice rest of your day.